Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we've got some really interesting sources lined up looking at large language models.
Right, specifically how they grapple with reasoning over structured data. We're talking about tables here.
Yeah, tables, they're everywhere, finance, sports stats, you name it. But LLMs, while great with text, find them, well, challenging.
It's different, isn't it? You've got cell content, but also row and column context, different data types, maybe needing calculations.
Multi-step reasoning, it's not just reading a sentence.
Exactly. And the research we're looking at tackles this. It focuses on improving table reasoning during inference.
So when the model is actually working out an answer.
Right. Using strategies often called inference-time scaling. The idea is the model generates some internal thinking steps first.
And this study is apparently the first to really dig into that specifically for tables.
That's what the sources suggest, yes. A systematic look.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive: unpack their methods, see what worked, and especially look into this claim about smaller models doing surprisingly well.
Let's just quickly underline why tables are tough. It's that structure.
Right.
Interpreting cells based on headers, connecting info across rows, maybe doing sums or averages, filtering things out, especially with big, dense tables.
Normal LLM training can kind of flatten that structure out, lose the context.
Yeah, just linearizing it doesn't always capture it. So the reasoning needs to be adapted.
So they developed two strategies post-training.
Correct. First one, Table-R1 SFT. That's supervised fine-tuning.
Okay, SFT. How did that work?
They took a very large, capable model, DeepSeek-R1, they call it a frontier model, and got it to generate step-by-step reasoning for table questions.
Like showing its work.
Pretty much. On various tasks, QA, fact-checking using standard datasets like WTQ, TabFact, FetaQA.
And then use those examples to teach smaller models.
They filtered for correct answers, creating a high-quality set of reasoning traces, and fine-tuned smaller LLMs on that, basically teaching them to think like the big model.
Got it. And the second strategy, Table-R1
That one uses reinforcement learning with verifiable rewards, RLVR.
Reinforcement learning, so less direct supervision.
Right. Instead of explicit steps, it uses reward signals.
Yeah.
The model tries things out and gets rewarded if it gets the answer right or follows a specific format. They used an algorithm, GRPO, to let it discover good reasoning paths.
Learning by doing, essentially, guided by reward.
Yeah. Rewards tied to task success, getting the exact number or the right true false. And importantly, they also rewarded it for structuring its output properly, like putting thoughts and think tags before the answer.
That structure reward mattered.
Apparently, quite a bit, yes. Helped with stability during training.
Okay, so two distinct approaches. How did they test them?
Extensively. They used 13 different data sets, covered short QA, freeform QA, fact verification.
And crucially,
They included data sets the models hadn't seen during training, things like TabMCQ, FingQA, InfoTabs, Toto, to check generalization.
see if the skills transferred. So what did they find? Did general inference time scaling work?
That was the first key finding. Just using a general LLM capable of scaling without specific table training. Well, it didn't consistently help much on table tasks. Mixed results compared to standard models.
So you really need that table-specific adaptation.
Seems so. Which leads to the second finding. The Table-R1 models, both SFT and RLVR versions,
They worked better.
showed substantial improvements over the baselines on the table benchmarks. The specialized training paid off.
Okay, and now the really interesting part, the third finding.
This is the highlight, I think. The Table-R1 model, the one trained with RLVR, specifically the 7 billion parameter version.
The smaller one.
It performed at or even above the level of much larger models. We're talking GPT-4 versions, DeepSeek-R1, on these varied table tasks.
Wow, so a 7B model matching or beating the giants through this RLVR training, that's significant.
It really is. And the fourth finding builds on that. Generalization.
How well did they handle the unseen data sets?
Pretty well. Both Table-R1 models showed strong out-of-domain performance. But interestingly, the RLVR approach, Table-R1, generally showed better generalization than the SFT one.
So RLVR taught something more fundamental, perhaps. How did they dig into why RLVR was so effective?
They looked at the training process itself, like how the response lengths changed, sometimes dropping initially, then growing as it learned reasoning steps. And they noted that starting from instruct models, ones already tuned for following instructions, made the RLVR training more stable and faster. That instruction following base helps.
Makes sense. And they mentioned something called reasoning capacity boundary, pass at K.
Right, pass at K. It's basically the chance of getting the right answer if you let the model try, say, K times. like 5 or 10 times.
Okay.
They found RLVR training boosted pass at K-scores overall, which means it didn't just improve the single best guess, it actually broadened the model's ability to find any correct reasoning path, made it fundamentally better at the task.
So a deeper improvement. What about looking at the actual thoughts, the qualitative side?
That gave some great insights. RLVR clearly helped the models develop structured, multi-step thinking, breaking down questions, outlining steps, sometimes even correcting themselves mid-thought.
And for table specifically, did it learn table smarts?
Yes, definitely. They saw clear improvements in table-specific skills, like column-aware reasoning, picking and using the right columns for the question.
That seems critical.
Absolutely. And better semantic understanding, getting the nuance of comparative questions or conditional ones and mapping that onto the table structure. Plus, better arithmetic and temporal reasoning, calculating sums, averages, or understanding dates within the table context.
So really learning to work with the table format, not just read words near it.
Exactly.
The study also did ablation studies, right? Testing different parts of the process. Any key insights there?
A few, yeah. Confirmed starting with instruct models is good. Showed the base architecture matters for generalization. One model backbone, Quen, did better out of domain. Using domain-specific SFT data helps. Also found that training on short QA helped with fact verification, but not so much for free-form QA, suggesting different skills are needed there.
And that format reward, the think tags.
That turned out to be crucial, according to the ablations. Not just for neatness, but it really helped stabilize the RLVR training and boosted generalization. That structure matters.
Okay, so pulling this all together from our deep dive into these sources, inference time scaling, especially when combined with specialized training like RLVR, looks very effective for table reasoning.
Definitely. And it enables these smaller 7B parameter models to punch way above their weight, reaching performance comparable to huge models on diverse table tasks and generalizing pretty well too.
And we understand how a bit better now it's about gaining both general step-by-step reasoning and very specific table handling skills.
Right. The RLVR seems key in fostering that.
Which does bring up a final thought, looking at the nuances in the research. They relied on DeepSeek-R1 for the initial SFT data and saw different stability with different model backbones during RLVR training. So how do we make these powerful, smaller models even more consistently robust? How do we ensure these techniques work reliably across any starting data, any model architecture for all the complex ways tables are used?
That seems like the next frontier, doesn't it? Figuring out how to make these specialized training methods more universally applicable and stable could really unlock efficient, powerful table reasoning for everyone.